for joining me once again, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are in Yorkshire, Harrogate, for the Zwift Racing League, round number 9, the last scratch race of the series, and it's a lumpy one. We have some big hills to get over today. Well, they're big for me as a sprinter. It's a rough one. So, here we are, 1:30 to go. Let's take a quick look at the course. As you can see, we have numerous lumps and bumps in this one. Really, out of the gate, we're climbing up the Otley Road climb, and as we go up to about 180-ish metres, then descent, slight climb again, then big descent around 5 kilometres in, a couple of little lumps and bumps. Up we go again to about 140 metres, then another big descent, and then we hit the Yorkshire KOM, the first intermediate point. So that's 1.2 kilometres, 5.5%, and another descent after that. Back up we go, where we reach the Yorkshire Sprint for the second intermediate points. Then back down we go, up and down, up and down, up and down, then a finish, again climbing slightly uphill. So overall, quite the lumpy course, and not one that really works for me as a sprinter. But let's see how it goes. 3 seconds on the clock, putting the power down, and off we go. My logic is this is probably about as close to the front of the race as I'm going to get, so I'm going to enjoy it as I join the front group and plan just to hang with them for as long as possible. I don't think I had much chance of getting over any of the climbs with them, so we'll just try and hang on and see how we go. A busy start, a couple of teammates there in the Zwift Scotland colours and with the Zwift Scotland tags. The usual suspects out there: Cryogen, Herd, Rhino are there. So yeah, it's the same suspects from the last scratch race. I really like scratch races. I'm not big on time trials. I don't know why. I think because I'm probably not very good at holding power at a constant level. I feel like I would just get on the front and then put everything I had down and, blow everyone off the wheel instead of holding a steady pace. You saw in the last WTRL video where I tried to lead out a teammate and just continued to blow him off the wheel by putting too much power down in short bursts. So I really need to practice that. But anyhow, here we are. The road's at about 3%, and you can see already my heartbeat is like 174. That's probably about as low as it's going to get because it's a busy old day. Now, I do have a decent power up from the first one. We have the favour, which is a nice start. So as this group starts to settle down, we will skip forward. Here we are now, about 2 kilometres in. We're just cresting the first of the hills. The pack itself is still around 20 some, maybe 30 people deep. We have used the power up just to help get up that first hill. Now, the good news for me, at least, is that we're still with the main pack, give or take. We're a slight gap opening up in front, but we'll close that down. What I find interesting, if you look at the bottom of the screen, you can see the power graph. Now, it is entirely red for the first few minutes of this ride. So that just shows you how hard I've had to go to stay with the pack has been rough, and I get a little bit of respite on the descent, which is nice. But we started climbing again. We were at only a few percent. It's not exactly a big climb. But yeah, falls flat uphill. But the group is now, you can start to see gaps opening on the right hand side. 1 second here and there, 2 seconds there. So you can see that the group looks like it's going to settle at the moment at around 20-ish riders. And we are going to be approaching the first larger climb of the day shortly. So this is taking us up the first hill, and about 3.5 kilometres in, we're on the sort of falls flat, and then it goes sort of uphill, downhill. But gaps definitely starting to open now to the group at around 23, 24 people. Really happy to have made this split after that first climb. I didn't expect to stay with anyone up the first hill, so that's going good so far. So come up to probably about a 95-100 degree right-hander. Road starts to pick up just a little here, 3%, 4%. You can see from the paragraph at the bottom, we got a little bit of respite there, a little bit of yellow and green. But, and you can see going up the road, that is just starting to rise up again. Yeah, 3%. But this is going to lead us on to one of the largest descents. Again, the power's back into the red, 3.2 watts per kilo. But that's the worst bit over, and we're going to start descending now. This is one of the points where my heavier frame, 90 kilos, will help on the descent. You pick up more momentum. And we hit this descent now, 8%. Now, anything above 55 kilometres an hour, you can go into the super tuck. As you can see, we're sitting on the top tube of the bike and flying down the hill, over 90 kilometres an hour. We didn't quite reach 3 figures. But as we start to level out at the bottom, it's back on the power again, so that respite was short. But it definitely helped. But then after this, it's another little rise before we get to the Yorkshire KOM, which is going to be the next big lump in the way. Not that there's anything easy here. It's still at 4%. It's still a heavy gradient for someone like me to get over 5%. So forward in time, we skip again here, and we take the left-hander and over the water and up the first big climb towards the first intermediate sprint point, the Yorkshire KOM. Now this is a big climb. This will thin this pack right down. So at the moment, just to hold on, 3.7 watts a kilo, over 300 watts. Very, very much in the red. If you see red, that's in the anaerobic zone. That's 120% of maximum power, so that is really grafting. It's basically straight. We can see almost all the way up the road, 7%. It is a hard climb. As you can see, TFC 3 riders up in the front there. And there's a cryogen, maybe a couple of cryogen riders there as well. And this is where I fully expect to be in difficulty. Hanging on at the moment though. Nobody's really put the hammer down, which is nice for someone like me. And one of the TFC riders just starting to make some tracks off the front. That's Manel. But you can see he's starting to get closed down. We're just trying to hang on at the back of this group. Heart rate absolutely tanking. Hit 190 there for a second. Sitting at 189 just now. Legs spinning at 83 revolutions per minute, which for me is quite a lot. I'm not much of a spinner. I don't like to spin. Well, I prefer to grind a big gear. But for a hill like that, we had to. So it levels off a little bit and then starts to pick up once again for the second part of the climb. You get a little bit of respite where it goes down about 1% or so and then it picks straight back up. Gradients at now 6%, 7%. The pack has split, but there's not much I can do. Out the saddle, grinding the big gear now. Out the saddle, heart rate 190 and rising. 191, 192. I'm not sure at what level I will have a heart attack, but surely it can't be far off 193. 4.3 watts a kilo. There was points at over 400 watts. I just try and hang on. Sitting in about 8th. 196 beats a minute, 197 beats per minute. 4.3 watts a kilo, 4.5 watts a kilo. The arch is there. Points go to the top 5. We are currently 7th. 8th now as we fall behind the American rider. And we will cross the line in 8th place. Still a fantastic result over that rise. Very, very happy with that. You can see from the video down below it is just blowing me apart. But we're onto the downhill now. We join the group of 2 in front of us. And we'll enjoy, once we hit 55 kilometers per hour, we will enjoy some at least slight respite on the descent. But it really is only slight. There we go, 58, 59 kph into the super tuck. And enjoy the 7% gradient. But it does not last for long as we're back on the flat, which means time to get the legs turning again. There we go. Once we get to the bottom of the hill, there is a hairpin left-hander. And we go back up again. Great. I should point out, if you have watched any of my streams, I managed to do... I didn't expect anything out of this race, looking at the hills. So I was putting in some base miles the day before, 50Ks, little half century around London. But oddly enough, my legs felt quite good today. Not really sure why, not going to complain though. So back up we go, another 5% gradient here. By this point we've already done 200 metres of climbing in 10.5 kilometres. That's a lot for someone like me. However, the pack has started to ease off a little, and it looks like we're all going to get back together here. Big gaps opened up behind, 11-12 seconds back to the rest of the group. So it looks like the winner is coming out of these 8. As everyone joins up once again. Even at this, the power is still spiking red. They've managed to ease off slightly as we join up with everyone else. But it's been a hard old ride. It's been a very hard ride. And here we are for the Yorkshire sprint. We have one person away off the front. And if you look at the paragraph, you will see I'm blown apart already, so sprints are not going to work for me. Hit aero boost, but there's not much power coming out of this. Not out of these legs. Sixth place over the line as we miss any intermediate points. A shame, but not unsurprising given the effort I just had to put in for the hills. And here we go, it's time to get up for the finishing hill for the first time. Again, this one brutal, 9%, 10%. And it's again a matter of just clinging on for dear life. Out of the saddle, grind the big gear, put some power down, and hope that we come out with the pack, which we do. Actually come out quite well here. As the gradient starts to ease off more into false flat uphill territory, a couple of percent here and there, and we come out second on the hill. Again, little gaps open up a second or two to other people, but they'll all come back together as we head up for the first time to the finish line. So that is one lap in the books, and it's been a rough one. Very impressed with my own ability to hold on. Did not expect to be with the lead group as we approached the finish line for the first time. But overall, very happy that we are. So just a smidge over 14 kilometres of a lap there. And the heart rate has started to settle around 184. I mean, I say it's as settled as 184 beats a minute can be. But there we go, over the line. A nice route complete, a couple of bonus XP as well. And we'll skip ahead to the next lot of action. And here we are at the foot of the Yorkshire KOM. So still with the group of about 10 riders or so. And you can see from the graph at the bottom, it's been a fairly steady pace, a couple of little digs here and there, but nothing too much. But this, on the last lap, only 6 kilometres to go, is where you would expect some big attacks to start going in. So sitting on the front here, putting out around 300 watts a kilo, we're very much back in the red. 3.3 watts a kilo, 300 watts, give or take. Again, Manel of TFC heads up the road as he did the last time, as the gradient peaks around 7% here. I have power-ups that are of no use to me on the climb. An aero power-up is not going to help me here. Now again, at this point here, I'm just impressed to be hanging on. I'm thinking, I could probably get a top 15 or so, maybe a top 20, depending on how quickly the people in the group behind come. So if I blow up, it's still a decent result. But as it is, we just try and hang on. You can see up at the front, Manel is still leading the charge, but nothing really happening apart from my suffering. Those legs are burling around at in excess of 80 revolutions a minute. The gap's just starting to open. I'm going to have to try and push. The gradient will level out a little bit, which might allow me to tag back on. to that group of 10. But there are little gaps starting to open as we go over the roundabout. The gradient now starting to go back up, and the gaps are bigger. The watts have to go up again as we push to try and hang on out of the saddle into the big gear, just to try and pull this back. 3.6, 3.9 watts per kilo, 4 watts per kilo. The heart rate goes up again, 190, as we continue to grind this big gear. $193, we're starting to pick up the stragglers of the pack now. Again, top 5 get points over here, but we are too far back for any of that. Heart rate of 195 beats per minute. You can see in the bottom left-hand corner there, the legs are starting to go around just a little slower. The fatigue really starting to take its toll as we move into 10th place. The head starts to drop. We start to chew the stem. But it looks like we'll come over this climb in around 10th place. Nobody said it was going to be a fast climb, but we are over and into the descent once again. Only 5 kilometres to go. But the effort doesn't ease up though, because we need to get to 55 kph to get into the super tuck, and also to try and close down the people in front to keep this top 10. So there's 55, there's the descent. As you can see from the cam in bottom left, absolutely blowing out of my backside at this point. We're back on the power as the gradient eases off. So around 4 kilometres to go. I'll take this chance just to reflect a little bit on the course and how I've managed to stay with the group. The climbs in this 1.2 kilometres, they're punchy climbs, they're not real strength sapping climbs. While I do sprint, and I much prefer to sprint than climb, the course here has actually been quite favourable. I can put out 3 minutes of effort to try and stay somewhere near the front, and the descents definitely help afterwards. It may only be 30 seconds of recovery, but it's recovery nonetheless. So they definitely help for someone like me. No, I wouldn't go so far as to say the course was enjoyable by any stretch of the imagination. It was manageable. And it was manageable in a way that I didn't think that I could do. This course has really pushed me to my absolute limit. I haven't seen a heart rate. The highest I've seen on this today was 198. I haven't seen a heart rate that high in any of my training ever. Maybe I should be pushing harder in training, but it really has been quite eye-opening in a good way. It's not. Anyway, a little pop of power gets us back on here, and we approach the Yorkshire sprint. Now there is a group of 5 up the road. They are long gone. Well, they're not long gone, but they're about 10 seconds away. Now, my logic here as you can see, I've popped the aero power up, and I'm going to put down just a little burst of effort to make sure that I am the first of this group across the line. Now my logic here is, if anything has happened with the people in front, if somebody gets disqualified for whatever reason, then I can pick up a point in the sprint by being sixth if they get taken out of the results. So there's a method to my madness, if you will. As it turns out, after the fact, nobody did get disqualified, but, better to be safe than sorry. Now, 2.5 kilometres to go. We're on a slight descent, around 3%, 4% now. It's not going to be enough to get into super tuck, but it is enough that we can ease off a little bit. I think this may be, if you look down at the graph, that may be the first piece of grey on the graph. So my first chance I've had to really ease up if you take out the descents that we were super tucked in. So yeah, that's a nice bit of respite. So at this point I was thinking, do I try and break away? I've got the draft power up. So do I try and break away and catch any of the top 5? But I thought that I don't have enough left. This course has taken a lot out of me, running almost on empty. So I'm not going to have the power in 1.8 kilometres to pull back a 10-second gap. So I'm just going to have to be happy with what I have. 1.5 to go. Another rise, 6%, 7%, which we're back out the saddle for. It would appear that any in the saddle efforts are pretty much done now. If I want any power, it's going to have to be out the saddle. 1.4 to go. If you look at the map in the top right, you can see that the first group, the lead group, is already on the climb and approaching the finish. We are here in 11th place. At this point I'm thinking, if I can get a top 10, this would be spectacular. Really way beyond my wildest imagination for this course. I don't know if you saw the comment in the text box before this race started when we were in the pens. I had said I'll be riding with the gruppetto from 1.5 k's out. As soon as that first hill came, I expected to be out the back and riding with the gruppetto. I did not expect any of this, but more than happy to take it. 800 metres left to go. There is the final right-hander before we go uphill. Another little mini break is away a couple of seconds up the road. Up into the big cog we go. Time to put out some power. 4.8 watts a kilo there. 4.9, 5.2, 470 watts. I mean, this is a whopper effort at the end of a race like this. For me anyway. 400 metres to go. 7th place. Just trying to cling on. We're into 9th. Pray for the top 10. There are people behind me. The gap in front of me is going. If you look at me in the bottom left, I've gone for the spacebar, but for some reason the spacebar is not working. I've had to go and pick up the keyboard and manually hit the draft. But we are 9th. This is as good a sprint as it's going to get. But the gap is fairly safe, and we cross the line in an incredible 9th place. Certainly did not expect that. Just the most amazing ride, and just blown me absolutely away. I didn't expect it, and I'm delighted by it. But that was something else. So what I did next was I recorded a very brief interview after the fact, which I'll pop in here for you, and you can see just how blown up I was after this. If I ask any of you to subscribe to the channel, that would be amazing. And I will see you next time. Thank you very much. Both racing, are you? On the floor. 9th place. And in hell as hell. Crack. I'm on. I had nothing left. I know what to say. I never thought I could compete like that. Absolutely everything's left on the bike. I need a shower. There's a cake.